Best time to be alive, my brother. We've been waiting for this. The diddler has been caught.
Yeah, they got their hands on the diddler.
Right.
The potential CIA plant, the diddler. Let's go ahead and start this episode by saying that we're pretty sure this is going to be our first strike on the new channel.
Yeah, we jumped channels. We
dumped our strike on the last channel.
Like it never happened. Gave it to Royal Court. Thanks for taking one on the chin.
Yeah, it's like the 70s and we changed our name. Nobody's going to know.
Nobody's ever going to know.
So, yeah, apparently the diddler turned himself in.
Okay.
And I couldn't stop.
He turned himself in right on the heels of Trump getting shot for a second time.
I know.
Perfect timing.
He was not even safe on his own links, in his own holes.
He's
not even safe on his own holes.
How did that happen?
A nice boomer by the name of Ryan Routh.
Routh or Routh? Routh or Routh.
You know what? I guess we'll know when they finally let him speak if they don't kill him first.
Yeah.
So apparently a former Trump supporter, current Ukraine war supporter.
Interesting.
Ryan Routh.
Yeah.
Flies from Hawaii.
Yeah. With a SKS, an AK-47 made by the Russians. Got it through security. I can't get an eyelash curler through security ever.
But he managed to get his way onto the links. By the way, I like that I'm talking about the golf course as if I know anything about golf.
Yeah, what is it called links for? I just keep thinking like a cat. I don't know.
Maybe
kitty cat.
The holes.
The holes.
He's at his own holes, his home holes.
At Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Is no one safe?
And they caught this guy, and he had a backpack with a GoPro in it.
A GoPro.
In case he needed to go live.
Yeah, that's great. I like that he thought, too, GoPro's built for action. I think this is part of their marketing campaign. It's built for action. So
Yeah. So, he shot at Trump. So
would you call this a Project Artichoke fail?
It definitely seems like one. It definitely seems like one.
Project Bluebird, which was renamed to Project Artichoke in the 1950s. If you want to stop the podcast right now and Google this, you can certainly look it up. All of this that we're saying, I hope people fact check.
Yeah, no, please fact check it. And please, the good folks at YouTube, fact check it before you strike us.
Yeah, don't just go striking us.
These are all real things that are existing out there for you to look up.
It's not our fault the CIA came up with this.
It's not our fault that the CIA's got a ton of programs that they're running simultaneously to harm the American public.
Interesting names, all of them. MK Ultra, hands down, being the greatest name.
Yeah, obviously a very dope name.
Right?
Project Artichoke?
I don't know how they came out with it, bro. But specifically, it's training people to attempt to assassinate others.
Yeah, which obviously they would never use that technology against us.
Not against our own people.
No, perhaps a president-elect.
Maybe twice?
Maybe the standing president.
But what I like to think is whoever is heading up Project Artichoke is failing miserably, because this is now twice that they tried to assassinate Trump, and both times they missed.
Yeah, so it's definitely, it's very, very strange time.
Where's the guy who trained Sirhan Sirhan? Yeah. Where's the guy who trained Lee Harvey Oswald?
You know what? All the good ones are gone. They were the greatest generation.
I know. R.I.P. to the greats.
They were the greatest generation.
Really
the ones who trained Sirhan.
We're just
the unnamed CIA operatives.
We are watering ourselves down.
The new generation, we're soft.
We are.
We're soft. So if you're the current CIA folks, they're graduating from their, top schools.
Yes.
And they're soft.
They are soft, Ange. They are. They've churned out now two guys that just suck. Okay?
Yeah.
Couldn't get Trump. First of all, Trump's a big target. He's a large man.
He's a big dude.
Right?
And golf is not exactly a fast-moving sport.
No, so he wasn't agile
I don't know a ton about golf, but it's a lot of standing around if I'm correct. So if you can't catch him then.
I like to think, too, I never even thought of this, but of course the Secret Service is coming to golf, too.
Yeah.
Do you think they get in on the carts and get to drink beer too? What's going on?
Oh, probably not.
That's what every guy tells me why they play golf.
Yeah, they just disappear for 4 hours and drink beer.
For the beer, yeah.
Yeah. I like to think that there's a nice...
And now the vape pens.
Oh, yeah. They're just hitting the vape out in the links. I like to think that there's just a golf cart full of Secret Service lesbians, hardy lesbians who are very good at golf following Trump. I like that. I'd like to think that.
I don't know how this one happened with Ruth. Did he, Routh? Ryan. Let's call him Ryan. First name basis.
First name basis until he hangs himself.
Did Trump have to tuck and roll? What happened?
No, I didn't get the deets. I didn't get the deets. To my knowledge, they saw the scope of the gun in the bushes, and then they hunted him down. I don't even know that he really got to shoot a fire, but there's different reports. I've also heard apparently Trump's telling people like 4 shots were fired. So I don't know that there's a lot of...
And neither here nor there, okay? So what happens in media when they don't want you to see something and they want you to look somewhere else? They have Amber Heard at the bed. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what they do. Amber Heard Johnny Depp's bed, and everybody look over here, look over here. You can't not. So Diddy is the equivalent of Amber Heard shit in the bed.
So they whiff an assassination attempt at Trump.
Right.
So that we don't notice that they've apprehended the diddler. So for anybody who hasn't seen our previous
I think
episodes,
they've apprehended the diddler so that we don't notice that they try to kill Trump.
Oh, you think it's the other way?
Oh, yeah. I think Diddy is Amber in the bed. You're going to bleep every time I say this, right?
Yeah. Amber the bed. Okay, so I see what you're saying. See, I was thinking that the Diddy stuff was pretty important because he's running potentially a ring, but let me tell you, they're gonna pull this one down, right? And make it all seem like, oh, the hip hop world, those crazy blacks, look what they're doing. How dare they?
Right?
How dare they?
And then nobody even mentions what Epstein was doing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is a blackmail ring.
Totally.
And the CIA props these people up
completely.
And
Corey Gambler, CIA.
And then you get major pop stars and major politicians and major figureheads in the world to say exactly what you need them to say.
I said a little prayer for the Kardashians this morning.
Ooh.
I did.
You think they're going to come down as part of the
I did.
diddlers?
I think deep down my heart feels for them. They're a tight-knit family, similar to us, big, crazy, Armenians. So I do think about them and how many times they've been pulled into the Diddy house parties. They did.
So they said that
the
report that I read this morning said that they raided his house in Beverly Hills and in Florida.
Okay.
And that they found over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Which is just like too much,
using that much. Honestly, it all goes back to petrochemicals. Who's using petroleum-based chemicals on their body? Clearly, everybody's onto the coconut oil.
It's too much.
It's too much.
Even if you're up to it, it's still too much.
Maybe he had like wrestling nights or something, where he like lubed people up and they wrestled.
That's what that's used for. But okay, so then I was reading.
Okay.
I can't stop reading. Okay, look, if Amber Heard the bed, I'm here for it.
Okay, I know.
I can't stop with the diddler coverage. So I'm reading the reports. And they call it like I don't know if it was like freak show or freak parties.
Freak offs.
Freak offs. Yes, thank you. So
freak offs.
So they found all the freak offs material. And apparently it consists of thousands of bottles of lubricants.
Interesting.
And between the two homes.
Yeah.
And so in the freak offs, which I love the idea that like the prosecutors and stuff are going to have
keep
to
saying
say
freak offs.
Freak offs. But yeah, I can't stop. So one of the things I noticed in the reports is that they keep like redacting names of famous people. So apparently like Diddy's like walking around and he's like trying to tell this producer who he's trying to have sex with that he has gay sex all the time with these people. It's not that big of a deal. He's like, see, I've had gay sex with
Carl Winslow.
Redacted.
Carl Winslow.
And then I've also had sex with redacted.
Wait, Carl Winslow got redacted? Reginald Van Olsen?
I didn't see his name in the official court documents. Not the ones that I saw.
Honestly, I feel like that one broke my heart the most. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm gobbling up the diddler.
You are. Tell me more. What else do you know?
I mean, I've shared mostly the bulk of what I've been able to catch this morning between taking care of my son and making dinner.
So I just saw right before I went to bed last night, I was on Twitter taking a look at this, trying to learn a little bit more about this Ryan Routh guy. And then all of a sudden I see Diddy starts trending and I'm like, what is this? Oh, Diddy's been arrested. I'm like, well, that is convenient.
Yeah.
That is convenient. Much like, remember that couple at the beginning of the summer last year that the boyfriend killed the girlfriend and they were like travel bloggers?
Yes.
They'll throw you a...
Petito.
Yes.
They give you a Petito.
They give you a Gabby Petito, right? They give you an Amber Heard. They give you a miners that get stuck in a well. They give you people went down in the Titanic submarine.
Yeah.
Do you know, they give you a story to munch on.
Yeah.
So you don't pay attention.
The attention wars.
Right. And who's munch away? They gave you a buffet with the Diddy.
I mean,
a buffet.
I can't stop. I won't stop.
I know.
I love a remix. I love a remix to a remix.
I know. So curious, might he unalive himself similar to Epstein?
We'll see. So apparently he turned himself in. It was one of those things that like rich people do where they came to an agreement with the prosecutor's office of when he should go in.
Okay.
And so,
Perfect timing.
they didn't bust into his home and drag him out.
Yeah,
type
like they
thing.
did to get all the materials.
Right.
Didn't they have tapes of everybody?
Yeah, and like his sons and stuff too. But here's the thing.
Okay.
If you're meveshing with the office about when to come in, don't you think maybe you should just like maybe return some of those bottles of lubricant or like maybe gift them away to some of your,
them.
Just
Right.
It just seems like
It's a lot of lubricant to hold on to.
honestly, like I hope there's nothing in my life that when I die, people are like, they found too much of something.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't want you. It's just terrifying to think that, like, when
Yeah, you have a lot of spices, honestly.
Yeah, I do.
It's a ridiculous amount of spices.
Really? No, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I would hate for like if somebody raided my home for them.
What they might find if they raid you. You're right.
And then report to everybody.
I'm not here to throw stones.
I don't want people to know about my freak offs.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I don't need people to know about my freak offs.
Yeah. What happens in your freak offs? This is very interesting to see what's going to happen with Diddy. He was top of mind, right? At the beginning of, even the beginning of the summer. And then
I thought about it. Sorry. Do you know what my freak offs would have been? Like a couple years ago? Essential oils.
Oh, yeah.
I went knee deep on essential oils.
You did that multi-level marketing
That would have been my
scheme.
freak off.
You
They would have
did.
been like, what kind of disgusting things is she doing? She wasn't even selling them. Why does she have so many?
I remember they tried to get you into that pyramid scheme and you were like, no.
I refused to sell, but I was like, but I'm going to keep buying them. Don't worry.
That's
like
fair.
spending all my money on this.
That's fair. I don't know what people could find too much of in my house. I'm trying to think. Honestly, I don't know. I can't think of anything that's...
Maybe it'll come to you.
That's that incriminating. I got a lot of crystals.
Yeah.
They might say, that I have a lot. Remember when Spencer and Heidi for a while, they got really into crystals?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that from the hills?
I don't think you have like a freak off amount of crystals.
A freak off amount.
You do. I don't think so. Wait. So the other thing from this week is the roundtable that they did. The cancel the cancel of the cancelers.
Oh, Dr. Jack Kruse.
Yeah. So Nicole Shanahan,
who used to be married to Sergey Brin, the Google person,
right,
was also an attorney, also a patent attorney.
Nice. She got broke off $1 billion. $1
billion in that divorce. So she was married. I want to say she's maybe like she's in between me and you age-wise. Right? She's probably in between me and you age-wise. Cutie patootie, half Asian. Mm-hmm. She was married to this guy, and then she meets Sergey Brin at a yoga conference. Okay? And they hit it off, and she's married, and her husband finds text messages. Too late, she's pregnant. Right? So she has Sergey Brin's baby. She marries Sergey. And then while she's with Sergey, she gets caught again cheating with, allegedly, they may have done this to smear her campaign, but Elon Musk. Ooh. And they say that she had a ketamine-fueled night with Elon Musk, and they hit it off. So she's no longer with Sergey. But she did get broke off $1 billion.
Wow.
Yeah.
I imagine if you're hitting ketamine at Burning Man with Elon Musk, you're sniffing that, right?
I don't know how they take the ketamine, honestly. They're not tapping it in. I haven't done ketamine, so I don't really know how they do it. But I know
that they can have you sniff it now.
Sniff it, and they also give it in like doctor settings too, right? You can get it under a doctor.
Yeah. So here's the thing though, with the sniffy one, my husband worked for the industry for a little while. Mm-hmm. The sniffed one is actually not ketamine. It's like a chemical compound that mimics the effects of ketamine. And that's what the sniff one is.
So maybe they did that. And then again, that is debatable too of whether or not that happened, but allegedly.
But allegedly,
she's a smart cookie.
She's a smart cookie who's very beautiful, who doesn't have any respect for monogamy in her relationships.
Maybe not. You know, we don't know what kind of childhood she had. I'm not here to judge anybody.
No, honestly, I like her a lot, so I'm not saying it in a judgy
so her
way.
whole thing is she has a kid who was vaccine injured.
Allegedly.
Oh, I think she said she watched it happen.
Yeah, it was the MMR vaccine.
DTP, I think.
Oh, really?
DTP or MMR?
One of them. MMR.
I thought it may have been DTP. But anyways, and she watched it happen where her kid went like nonverbal.
Yeah,
which we've heard before.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? So like there's so many accounts of parents saying like they had a kid smashing milestones, went to a vaccine session, one of very many that you get throughout your children's childhood, and suddenly, I think specifically she said that her kid was just staring at the fan and making grunting noises over and over again.
I know, so sad. So Jack Kruse, then Dr. Jack Kruse was on that round table too. And Jack Kruse, I became super familiar with in the last few years on that. You know how I always mention the Quantum Biology Collective podcast?
Yeah.
And because the whole thing is about light. You know, I'm obsessed with all that light, sunlight, blue light, all that other kind of stuff. So Dr. Jack Kruse is a neuroscientist who apparently gets hired now by like a number of different things for consulting projects, but by like rich parents of autistic kids that are like, hey, can you un-autism my kid? And then he's pretty like hard on them. And he's like, no, dude, you did it. What did you think? You gave your kid a schedule of vaccines one after another, and then you stuck a device in their hand and let them bake under blue light. What did you think was going to happen to them?
He has a very harsh, gruff delivery.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That guy's got, right?
I mean, he knows his stuff. So if you listen to the roundtable, it's still available on X under Nicole Shanahan's page. But if you listen to the roundtable, he's not a very likable person.
Not at all.
But my goodness, is he knowledgeable. I mean, he is just name checking people, events. I mean, he is threading together things that are really, really interesting. So like he talked about Bernice Eddy. During that, who was a researcher when vaccines were first being developed, specifically the polio vaccine. And her job was literally just like quality control. So she was testing the various batches and making sure that they were okay. And during her quality control findings, she saw that a number of batches had the live polio in them, as opposed to just the dead virus. And the live virus, and basically that means that infects you with polio. And so when she alerted everybody about this, they basically swept it under the rug. And when those batches went out, they made people very sick. They paralyzed some people, and they caused outbreaks in a lot of places too. So it's a very, very interesting part of history that you can look up. But
a lot of the stuff has been buried, though.
Big time. Oh, I'd never heard of her before. Yeah. And what's wild about Jack Kruse is he's basically saying, like, look, this is his theory. Please don't cancel us for this one, but it's very interesting to think about. But he basically says that they knew from the jump that the polio vaccine didn't work.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I think he said that one of the guys that was like in development of it took his two grandkids, a boy and a girl, injected both of them. The boy died in a day, and the girl
lost power to her legs, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, she became
paralyzed.
paralyzed.
She got polio.
Yeah. So like there's a lot of these reports that came out at the time. And so what Jack Kruse says, and this is where things start to get very interesting, is that the vaccine program has always been a bioweapon. And that it is made by the Department of Defense. And that the origins of that have to do with post-World War II, when we brought in all those German Nazi scientists, and we realized that there is a lot that we could be doing on the defense side of things using these big brains who understand chemicals and how to undermine the human body.
So here's the 1-2 punch. It's not just the shots, right? You know, Jack Kruse's whole thing is light, blue light.
Yeah, I noticed he was wearing his hater blockers.
His hater blockers, his blue light blockers, which we should be doing at all times as well.
Yeah.
But his whole big thing was, and he said, and obviously, I want to say this Nicole Shanahan, she was a patent attorney too, I think. I'm assuming this is the one that he was saying, that part of the patents that they came up with was this whole, everything is blue light, everything is blue lit. And they came up with this when they started Las Vegas casinos and gambling. So the mafia learned through like some Department of Defense or whatever else that if you make all the screens backlit blue and you cut all the natural light inside of casinos, you can keep people there addicted and have them keep gambling and gambling and gambling, that they're not going to leave.
Right, because you lose your sense of time.
Right. So he's basically saying that in addition to injecting everybody with this crazy schedule of vaccines now, which is like just gotten insane, that also then you put a device in everybody's hand.
Yeah.
And everybody's then having this blue light just shoved in their face, and with LEDs and all that other kind of stuff, that this is like degrading not only your mitochondria, but basically every cell in your body.
Yeah, so he didn't mention it on the roundtable, but he did mention it when he posted about it, that specifically... So, okay, Obama came out with the BRAIN plan in 2014. So BRAIN was basically supposed to be similar to the Human Genome Project, which is they were going to throw a ton of funding at really being able to map out and really understand how the brain works. And so in 2014, he announced this initiative that they were going to spend $100 million. It actually was $110 million, and $50 million of that came from DARPA.
Oh, our favorite.
Yeah. And publicly, they explained that it was going to be an initiative to, combat Alzheimer's and help people who have traumatic brain injuries and all the things that like a concerned citizen wants to hear, right? With Alzheimer's being at an all-time high and, us having no further understanding of it or
except that just everybody gets Alzheimer's now.
So when that sort of
skips a generation, I heard.
Oh, yeah. Oh man. So anyway, so they go, they end up throwing all this funding at it. DARPA basically is half of the money. So the Department of Defense is half of the money that they're putting up for this stuff. You know, the Department of Defense just really wants to know about autism.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, Alzheimer's. So they go and they've been doing this for the last 10 years. We know, of course, nothing more about how to prevent Alzheimer's aside from like independent research that talks about like diet and sunshine and things like that. But what Jack Kruse is implying is that this brain program was actually more to do with MK Ultra style stuff. So like mind control stuff.
Yeah.
And if you look into like RFK Jr. And the stuff that he talks about when he went and interviewed Sirhan, the guy who killed his father, who's alive and in jail right now in California. He said that when Sirhan talks about what happened, he basically said that he had no ill will towards his dad. He had no feelings either way about the president-elect. And suddenly he came to and somebody told him he had just shot the president-elect.
Manchurian candidate style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the style of like, you know, taking somebody and really like brainwashing them and creating something, right?
Yes.
Well, this stuff that they're talking about, this brain stuff and the stuff that Jack Kruse is alluding to is more to do with like blue light and the EMFs, the non-native EMFs.
Yes.
And the idea that you can mind control people using these blue lights that we're staring at all times.
Yeah. I heard even as something as like when JFK got killed and they showed it and they say, and it's funny because I think I mentioned this earlier, but a yoga student of mine had mentioned she remembers watching it when it happened and that like it'll stick in her mind forever. You know, similar to 9/11 is that you show the same image again and again and again. So you re-traumatize the people again and again, and that sort of gets stuck in their brain. And then you start kind of feeding whatever narrative that works off of that.
Yeah.
Right?
And
because
then
that
people,
sticks.
right. And because they saw the footage, they believe what they saw.
Yes.
So what you tell them to fill in the blanks of what they saw.
Yes, becomes then the thing that, right? And we know this, that conspiracy theorists, the entire idea of it, it was born out of JFK getting shot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the word conspiracy theorist exists because of that. Because of that.
Yeah. But it's not common knowledge still. So when I say it to people that I think are like kind of cool, and I'm like, obviously you guys know this, right?
You just casually drop it.
Sometimes I'm like, or I'll say that about conspiracies. How about this? The chemtrails in the skies. All of a sudden, Jody was telling me this the other day in yoga, that now they've rewritten textbooks to be like, we've always been spraying. What are you talking about?
Nice.
But like 10 years ago, if you mention it, people are like, crazy. That's a conspiracy.
spraying.
They're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
spraying.
yeah.
But they go back and they're like, no, we've been doing this.
It's okay.
We said it. We have to do this.
It's good for you.
It's good.
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So this is
It's
what
like when they started pouring fluoride into our water. We've always been
we
doing
need
it.
Why is there aspartame in the water? Has anybody?
It's good for you.
Right? It's good for you. Lower everybody's IQ by how many points?
Yeah.
Just make everybody a little dumber.
It's good for you.
It's good for you. You want this.
Yeah. So wait, so sometimes you casually drop the
yeah,
JFK
so sometimes,
stuff
and then I realize I'm like, oh, this is not like common knowledge. I'm like, there are still people who really think that some crazed shooter just managed to shoot the president and got away with it.
and then they took that guy out.
And that's the guy. Yeah. And that's the guy.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's wild. It should be a lot harder to shoot the president.
Yeah, dude. It should. And Trump has 2 under his belt
They
now.
promised me that people were going to shoot Obama. They promised us.
We didn't get one.
That they were going to shoot at him.
Yeah.
And nobody shot at him.
Yeah.
For 8 years, they were like, those crazy whites, they're going to try and shoot him. And nobody shot him.
Nobody did. I know.
But Trump, they pinch him twice in a few months. That's a lot.
That is a lot. What do you think's going to happen with this
We gotta
election?
tighten
Ange?
up, okay?
I do think. I think he's probably pissed at the Mar-a-Lago staff.
Oh, yeah. In his own
And it's
home.
right.
On his own holes.
You buy all that property. It's gorge, by the
It
way.
is, honestly.
It's
we
gorgeous.
drove by it once on accident.
We did.
That is some of the most beautiful property I've ever seen.
It really
that
is.
beach right outside of it was stunning.
Yeah. There's a reason why Epstein lived right around there.
Yeah, that's where you want to be.
And why they were running the child trafficking ring all around there.
It's where you
gorgeous.
wanna be.
It's gorgeous, okay? It's gorgeous.
Yeah, definitely. So the Jack Kruse stuff is really wild. I have
If you're not familiar with Jack Kruse and you want to learn a little bit more, may I suggest listening to Rick Rubin's podcast, the I always get the name wrong, tetrahedron expialifragilisticexpialidocious podcast. Rick Rubin has a podcast that's really great, and he has Jack Kruse on with RFK Jr. So if you want to know a little bit more about Jack Kruse, he's not a likable dude.
No.
He's kind of an asshole, but he's really smart.
Yeah. I was going to say, he definitely impressed me in terms of like just the amount of information. I mean, I literally just like wrote a bunch of stuff down. I went down a rabbit hole of each of these people,
War Mode interviewed him. Shout out War Mode.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, shout out Bohemian Grove too for the merch.
Shout out to Bohemian Grove. Thanks for the free merch.
We love you guys.
Yeah. And
We love you
also
guys.
thanks for the merch that we purchased from you.
Oh, yeah.
We like all of it.
We love all of it. Yeah. But War Mode interviewed Jack Kruse too. And he like just ripped him. He was just like, you idiots have your windows closed and you're surrounded by all this equipment. Because Spud was like, hey, listen, I legitimately feel unwell when I sit in front of a computer for too long. I've been working on the podcast or I edit these videos or something. And he's like, yeah, it's like degrading every bit of your existence to sit inside, windows closed, underneath these lights. It's killing everybody.
Yeah, one of the things that Kruse mentioned in the roundtable was that the pigeons in cities are darker because they absorb all of the like fumes from the city and then they molt.
Yeah.
And they get rid of all of that and then get new feathers. So they're able to expel the toxins that they are exposed to. So like, why can't we? Of course we can.
Absolutely. We can. And the more sun you get, the better. The melanin in your skin helps you with that. But Bill Gates doesn't want you to know that, right? The dermatology department doesn't want you to know that.
Yeah. And you know what? For somebody like me who doesn't use SPF, I live in Florida. I'm in the sun constantly. I just got my blood work back from my midwife and I am at a 22.
I know. I thought of this last night, Ange. You wear contacts.
I know.
So that's another thing that people don't realize is contacts do not allow you to get the full spectrum of light into your eyes.
Yeah, they have UV.
Glasses as well, but contacts, you got to take the contacts out.
Yeah, I've been doing it more often since I got the results back. Because when I thought about it, I was like, this isn't possible. I am outside way too much for this to be possible.
My vitamin D was at a 34 and it's supposed to be between 30 and 100. And your girl is tan as anything at the beach all the time, barefoot, riding my bike outside. I spend a lot of time in the sun and I have low vitamin D. One thing we will never do, supplement.
No, so if you supplement with vitamin D, it leaches calcium from your bones. So it's sort of like trading one devil for another.
Yeah. the way you want vitamin D is as much as you can into your eyes and skin, and eat healthy fats.
Because it's a hormone.
Yes.
You're not meant to just supplement it. I mean, in general, supplements can be a really scary
Jack
thing.
Kruse had this idea too about everybody's hormones and why there's so many transgendered people. He said a lot of this is blue light. That they're light deficient in like the full spectrum of light that you need. And that's affecting your hormones. So if you're feeling like
the gender dysphoria type stuff.
Yeah, the gender dysphoria, or even like,
That's interesting.
So a lot of that is light.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yo, this is a case for bringing the podcast outside.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
We're supposed to be spending 85% of our days outside.
The problem is I live in the suburbs and it's lawn day every day somewhere around me.
Really
Somebody's cutting the lawn every day.
Or spraying the lawn or whatever. Yeah.
Every day. So we're going to have to figure out what day is a good day for
an outside podcast.
Not getting blasted by lawn people. But
we're meant to live outside.
Sure. And my son does love the lawn people. He loves the ride along lawns. He likes the push mowers. All lawns, all lawn care is special for him. So you were telling me earlier, and I want to make sure that you say it on the podcast, because it was pretty interesting. So the stuff about people waking up during COVID because it was a break in their habits.
So I was listening to, what is her name? So she was part of the MK Ultra program and got out. I think she was taken as a child, and this sounds insane, but turned into like a sex slave for the White House and amongst other things.
Jesus.
So she was MK Ultra, but she was able to break out of it and whatever else, and now come around and talk about it. But she had mentioned in a podcast, she said specifically with COVID. So there was a big mind control thing that was attempted during that, and amongst all other times in history where they try to do it.
Sure.
But specifically with COVID, and as you
at
know,
a minimum, just to getting mass compliance. Let's say
so,
like even at a minimum.
So it was to fight misinformation, vaccine hesitancy, amongst other things. So the big things were mask up, stay away, and shelter in place.
Biden spent $11.5 billion on getting that rollout of the vaccine. $11.5 billion with a B.
Billion. But they do say between like 80 and 90% of the people took it.
So, yeah. I thought 75%, but my goodness, that's high.
So I think their numbers are incorrect. I think a lot of people fibbed about getting it.
No.
I think there's some people who didn't get it.
You think there's some people who fibbed?
Yeah, I do. I think there's some people who maybe said that they got it and didn't get it.
Ooh.
Right? Which I think is kind of interesting, kind of neat. Yeah. I mean, however you took that.
Sure.
You know? But yeah, where were we going with this?
Oh, that the waking up during COVID.
Oh, waking up during COVID. Yes. So they said a lot of what happens with mind control is that if you put the reason why they say with the whole sex trafficking ring and this idea that where all the kids go and where are this idea that they're stealing kids and why are they doing this to kids and why do they harm kids when they're young is if you traumatize somebody at a young age, then they're more suggestible around that trauma. And then you can kind of program them into anything. And then from there, you're great. So the idea is just like JFK is everybody watched him get blown up, head blown off or whatever, that traumatized them enough that they could put a narrative. So the same thing with COVID was scare people, keep showing these scary images, and you can get everybody into this narrative, which is mask up, 6 feet apart, and shelter in place. Well, the shelter in place part kind of thwarted the plan because the idea is if you just operate on a pattern of systems. Have you ever gone to work like when you used to drive to work and be like, how did I get here?
Dude, one time I accidentally listened to an entire Kid Rock song. I literally got to work and I was like, that's been playing this whole time.
Right. So the idea is like, especially when you're going to work and you have, a lot of us are just kind of going through the motions of life. But sheltering in place, what happened is it caused a lot of people to change up their patterns, which ends up, you start forming new neural pathways in the brain. So when you form new neural pathways, you start viewing things very differently. So this is the idea that they say the great awakening that happened 4 years ago, that a lot of people are kind of waking up and being like, if they were totally not questioning things like in
Western med,
any of that stuff, that stuff now is being questioned and being brought to life. So a lot of people are like, wait, something seems off here, because they had a lot of time to just kind of sit at home and their patterns were being broken.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, I think, woke up, for lack of a better term, whatever woke up means, right?
Yeah. I don't know a lot of people whose lives look exactly like they did prior to the pandemic.
Yeah.
Most people's life has been altered in some way, shape, or form.
This can sound really grim when you talk about things like all the CIA things that are happening, the sex trafficking, the president-elect or whatever he is, or former president.
The freak-offs.
Yeah, people being shot at. It sounds like an awful time, but it is the greatest time to be alive. This is like, it's so amazing what can happen with people.
Yeah, because, I mean, in my opinion, it's because this stuff's been going on for a very long time, but it's only recently that this is something you can really talk about.
Yeah. And are we going to get knocked off of YouTube for this? Probably.
Yeah, for sure we're going to get a strike for this one, but I'd argue it's worth it. Come check us out on Spotify. But one of the guys that Nicole Shanahan had on the roundtable too was Andy Wakefield, Dr. Andy Wakefield. And he got canceled back in 1998 for saying that there was a link between the MMR vaccine and autism.
Yes. And then Merck, the manufacturer, did a huge cover up.
Yeah. So one of the things that he said was like, okay, well, we know that if you get the measles under the age of 1, that it's much more dangerous for a kid to have the measles and fight it off if they're not over the age of 1 yet. So he said, so if that's the case, can we look into these vaccines to see if there is more of a danger by giving it to them so young, and is there less of a danger by waiting?
Sure.
And so they sent him back to the drawing board, and the folks were doing the research, and the research came out and showed that that was exactly true. That if you delayed the vaccine, that it was much less harmful.
Okay.
And then Merck spent a ton of money and a ton of resources to make sure that that got buried and was never shown. And the only reason why we know that that exists is because one of the doctors ended up coming out who worked on that research and whistleblowed, basically said like, I can't live with this anymore. That guy's name is William Thompson.
Did he get unalived by any chance?
I didn't do any follow up research, but yeah. So when they say like there's no links between autism and vaccines, like I'm sorry that there is. It's and anybody who has an autistic child or anybody who knows of somebody who's died from a vaccine, like you feel like for a long time it felt like you were part of some sort of crazy secret society where you couldn't talk about these kinds of things in public.
Yeah. But who knows the child better than the parent? Yeah. Who knows a child better than the parent?
Yeah, it's so true. And you know, I'm really excited to go see the new Vaxxed movie tomorrow night.
Yes.
And I think that what's most interesting about that premise of the film is that they just took a bus around the country and they're just interviewing people who have personal experiences with this stuff. And I think COVID did a really good job of squashing any of that kind of information by saying that, you know, it's anecdotal and by throwing away anecdotal information and sort of making us force and lean into, you know, data, the kind of truth data sets. But the truth is that anecdotes are just early data.
Yes.
And data in a larger sense with the big D is just stuff that can absolutely be manipulated to whatever is paying for it, you know, whichever side is paying for it. But so yeah, I'm really excited to see it. I think that
when our show comes out, I think the movie will already be out. So if people are interested in going to see it, you can look up and see where Vax is playing in your local theaters. Yeah, it's only in a few theaters.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like you can have your feelings about it either way, but like we know people who've personally lost children to the MMR vaccine. We know people who have personally, they have Crohn's disease now because of the COVID vaccine. Like you can say that these things are rare or uncommon or...
but they do happen.
But they do happen. And it's not fair to look at somebody in the face who's had this experience and tell them that they're wrong.
Yeah. When the manufacturers of these things have complete immunity, that's what we're talking about here.
Right.
What's going on?
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
Like, it real easy then to just be like, oh, not my fault, not it.
Right.
You know?
And look, maybe the diddler also has complete immunity.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe I'm following down the wrong rabbit hole.
Listen, maybe he's going to sing, and they're going to turn somebody else in. Who knows? I don't know if he's the fall guy. I don't know what I'm not going to pretend to understand any of this kind of stuff.
Maybe he's not the personal owner of 1,000 bottles of lubricant.
Maybe not. Maybe
it's somebody else.
Okay.
Maybe it's we gonna find out. Stay tuned. We gonna find out.
And this was fun.
Yeah, this was really fun. I mean, we might not be able to watch this one on YouTube, but
that's okay. Catch us on Spotify. The Spotify gods love us still.
Yeah.
I wear green for Spotify for life.